What gives, Amazon? I was promised that you were a easy bagger. Yet today you're down $5, almost 3%. This is unacceptable. But there are a couple things that are potentially contributing to this little dip in Amazon's share price. It doesn't really have me worried all that much, but let's get into it a little bit and explain what's going on. A couple pieces of, I guess, slightly unfortunate news got released very recently. Now, I think Amazon was actually down already before these two particular headlines got posted. However, there may have been other sources that posted these earlier than an hour ago. It would be an interesting coincidence to me if these came out after the price drop and weren't the cause of it. But there is an antitrust case against Amazon where the FTC is basically being allowed to proceed with presenting their case instead of it being thrown out, which Amazon wanted the whole thing thrown out, but only a few individual state claims got dismissed. But the FTC's claim, which the FTC would be federal, is being allowed to proceed. And basically, the summary of it is that they're allowed to proceed currently it's allowed to be assumed that what they're saying is true. Basically, if it's true, then the case has merit, but Amazon will at some point get the opportunity to argue the truth of the case in court, in which case they have expressed confidence that some portions of the FTC's claims are actually not true. And if that's the case, then maybe it doesn't have merit. Anyways, the lawyers, I'm sure, are going to get a pretty payday off of that, regardless of how it ends up shaking out. And then also Wells Fargo, they downgraded Amazon because they think Project Kuiper, which is something that Amazon is spending a lot of money on, will pressure margins. Now, the thing of it is that Amazon spending a lot of money and doing a lot of capital expenditures, etc., to build up their business it's been a part of the business model since the very beginning, and that's nothing new. And in general, the massive spending ends up leading to pretty substantial growth, which is kind of it's Amazon's modus operandi. So I'm not too worried about that. A Wells Fargo analyst, I mean, I care about as much about what Wells Fargo thinks of Amazon as, you know, a short bus full of special ed kids, basically. So that's what I think about Wells Fargo. Some people might look at Amazon's price today and say that I'm not very smart at all for having the stock. However, what is very smart is using the exclusive link in the description below to sign up for today's sponsor, which is Moomoo, where you can get 8.1% APY on uninvested cash, as well as 15 free stocks when you deposit $1,000. And of course, we can't forget about the competitive margin rates, the 100 trading indicators that you can use, as well as the access to stocks, options, ETFs, whatever your heart wants to buy, you can buy it on Moomoo. Ladies and gentlemen, you just got to use my exclusive link in the description below, and you too can join the Moomoo family. Get on this bus because it won't be in town all that long. So with this dip, we basically have potentially, if you don't already have a full allocation into Amazon, you're still building your position, or you maybe have been on the fence about getting it because it just ran up not too long ago from those low points in the 160s. Well, hey, it just dropped back to a point where I think it's pretty reasonable, right? I was willing to take a chance on it at anything under 200 while building the position. I got lucky and was able to get some shares at some much lower prices. And I'm still in the green on my position, even with today's price drop. And I think that a price to operating cash flow of about 18x is not really all that demanding for a company like Amazon, which you're paying a higher multiple, of course, on the bottom line, on free cash flow and on earnings. But I think that their continued spending for growth shows that they're committed to fleshing out every possible area that they can, and they're looking to dominate in every space they expand into. And only once that they've really managed to get a dominant foothold in every single area that they can, will they probably really, really tone back the spending. Now, honestly, though, as they get more and more segments fully built out, it's going to be proportionally less of their revenue that's actually going into build outs of different projects and different market segments that they're trying to get into. For example, pharmacy. They're building out, this Amazon pharmacy add-on to their business. What they're having to spend to do that, probably compared to what they spent to get their distribution network and e-commerce built out, is probably relatively small, but it is a cost, right? And once they've got that built out, it's gonna be the next thing, and then the next thing. And I don't know where it ends, but it does seem like they still have a number of areas that they want to expand into, and a number of revenue spigots that they still want to build and then activate. So I'm happy to be along for the ride at this point. And I think in a few years we'll be saying, dang, I could have gotten Amazon for $180. I get the sense that in a few years we'll be saying that, and anybody that got in today will probably be pretty happy that they did. So Amazon is, as one of the Magnificent Seven and being almost $2 trillion market cap, of course, is going to be among the most covered stocks by analysts. And I don't think that I'm necessarily adding any special hidden unknown information that people don't realize when looking at Amazon, right? I think that people kind of more or less fall into one of two camps, one being, hey, there's still a lot of growth here, and when they turn on the profitability, it's going to be great. And the other, more pessimistic one being, they've had all this growth, and they've, spent all this money, but in terms of, net income and cash flow, is all we really are getting for it, still a 40x multiple. And so therefore they think it's somewhat expensive. Maybe they think that it's eventually going to be declared a monopoly and something bad will happen to it. Those are kind of the negatives that I see. And I get both sides of that story. However, what I believe is that Amazon is likely really worth maybe somewhere in the 220 to 240 range. At least that's my general sense of it. And with a company like this, being that it is so widely covered, so loved by investors and analysts alike, retail and institutions, etc., that whenever you get a wave of enthusiasm around it, it can be greatly exaggerated, as can the pessimism. So my general idea is, when it was getting a little bit pessimistic because of the Bezos wall and then had that sort of fall from the 200 level, I thought, this is probably an interesting time to do the falling knives method, get in when sentiment is kind of on the downswing, and then I'm in and locked in at a pretty good price. And then at some point, the next enthusiastic wave is going to come along. And not only will it maybe reach what might actually be its real fair intrinsic value, whatever you want to call it, but it may even push well past that point at some point in time. in which case I stand to benefit. Now, I don't have any illusions that it could potentially go the opposite way. Maybe the market decides, hey, Amazon, you've had enough time to translate all of this growth into free cash flow, and we're tired of it, and maybe there's a sell-off, right? Maybe there's some type of macroeconomic issue that really, really hits like e-commerce, for example, really hard, and Amazon goes through some tough times. Those things are all possible, but honestly, at this point in time, I think the bulk of the evidence is that Amazon's business is really diverse and robust, and that it's well run and they know what they're doing. People have different criticisms of management. There's been a lot of negativity around their return to office mandates and such being kind of like a soft layoff. We'll see how it plays out in the next few quarters. I'm looking forward to it. I'm having a heck of a good time covering this stock and owning it and seeing which way the winds blow. If you made it to the end of the video, I'd like to thank you very much. Also, let me know in the comments below if you hold any Amazon, or if you think this is a good price for it, or if you think it's overpriced. Which camp do you fall into? Also, make sure you're liking for the algorithm, subscribing to help me get to 3,000 subscribers. That's a big goal of mine. Also, follow me on Twitter, or the X platform as it's now called, at Mr. Macho Mog, link in the description. My Discord's link is in the description, where we talk stocks every single day. Hundreds of people on there talking about stocks. Also, every Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern, Cash Flow Kings Live, both on YouTube and the X platform. We dual stream, and we aim to have the most interesting guests from both YouTube and X. Basically, anybody into investing and big in social media, we're willing to talk to. It's a good time. We hope to see you there. Have a wonderful day.